Well, when Lauren was speaking about the theme of beauty, I just remembered a story of somebody who was captured by beauty. Do you know the story of Fulton J. Sheen when he met the beautiful woman on the airplane? Have you heard this? No. So one time he was traveling on an airplane, and there was this flight attendant, and she was just extraordinarily beautiful. She was just a very, very striking and beautiful woman. So he was just kind of caught by her and like looking at her, and she came over to serve him, and he said, "Do you know that you're just so beautiful?" And she smiled, and he said, "You're extraordinarily beautiful." He said, "Can I invite you to go visit the missionaries of charity that have a home for the dying? Those dying people, they need to see you. They need to see your beauty and experience it." So anyways, they kind of exchanged numbers and things. And he didn't hear from her. But then 10 years later, this missionary of charity came to visit him, and it was her. It was this woman that he met on the airplane. And for me, it was like such a beautiful example of evangelizing through beauty. Like he saw she had this gift, and he invited her to use this gift and bring God's love to others. So she actually returned to love through beauty, through her own beauty, and she brought others to love through the tenderness that she bestowed on them as a missionary of charity. So, returning to love through tenderness is like another way to bring people to God, right? We bring people to God in many ways. One of the ways can be through tenderness. And when I heard this theme, like the theme "Return to Love," I was just kind of pondering it, and I was like, well, if somebody is returning to something, then it means that they left it. So I was just thinking, did we really leave love? Like, have we really left God? And then honestly, I started envisioning all of you sitting here, all these beautiful women who have come out on this, Advent evening. And I don't know, there's like something in my heart that was saying, I'm not sure if we've actually left love. I don't know if that's completely true. Maybe it's just about being right where we are because that's where He is. Because that's where love is. And, sometimes the only security that we have is that little piece of land that's right under our 2 feet. And we want more land. We want more real estate. We want more security. But sometimes Jesus just says, all you need actually is this tiny little piece of real estate that's under your 2 feet, because this is where I am. And if we're here together, then you're completely secure. You actually don't need more than what you have. So maybe part of the returning is just kind of looking in our own hearts and seeing that Jesus is there and just connecting with Him inside. So Val and I had a nice little chat at lunch today when we were getting ready for this. And we've both been busy, and we were both a little tired, and we were having this conversation basically about our littleness and our poverty. And I told her, when David went to meet Goliath. He took off all his armor. He had no armor. And all he had was, a little stone and a slingshot. So he was poor, and he was little. And he defeated Goliath. So in his poverty and in his littleness, he was actually strong, So Val and I were saying we don't like it when we're rushed, and we don't have the heart and the space to be completely present for the person in front of us. We don't like that. We don't like when we're like that. But sometimes that's just our littleness and our poverty. And it might be something that we want to get away from or hide from or just completely change, but sometimes we can't. And Jesus can be there and that with us. So another thing when I thought about this topic of tenderness is, there are some people that you look at and you're like, oh, they're so tender, right? And then maybe other people who they don't come across so tender. We might even think that about ourselves. Well, actually, I'm not a tender person, so how am I going to bring people to God through tenderness? I feel hard, or I feel prickly, or I feel just impatient and rough. But actually, as women, we all have it inside of us. Like, we're made for tenderness. And it's interesting because 90% of people who are on death row, they ask forgiveness to their mothers before they die. And you know why they do that? Because they know that their mother will forgive them. Because that's what mothers do. Mothers love. Mothers are tender. Mothers forgive. We just kind of can't help ourselves, right? So Lauren and I had a beautiful experience this summer. Every year, the Consecrated Women do an 8-day silent retreat, and so we went out to California, where I'm from, to do this retreat because there's a retreat center there, and we found this beautiful book called Loving in the Light of Eternity. And it's written by this hermit. He's not a priest, but he's consecrated to God. His name's Joshua Elsner. And the whole book is basically about how the persons in the Trinity love each other and how we're actually called to that and called to love each other the way that they love each other. But it's hard, right? Because we're human and we have original sin, and so we bump up against each other. But I found a quote there that I really loved about tenderness that I wanted to read to you. And part of this is from St. John Paul II. So it says, tenderness is the ability to feel with and for the whole person, to feel even the most hidden spiritual tremors, and to have in mind the true good of that person. And this deep interior attitude of tenderness impels the heart to manifest such love to the other person externally in words, touch, and gestures. Thus, tenderness is nothing but the expression of my deep attunement to the beauty and goodness, to the pain and sorrow, to the whole subjective interior state of that other person in their uniqueness before God, and my desire to express my closeness to them. So, have you ever had someone be so kind of like attuned to you that you just experience kind of like this certain sense of peace and safety? This is kind of what tenderness brings about. So tenderness, I was just going to share like 3 different things about tenderness. Tenderness, first of all, requires attentiveness. And I love this analogy of monkey bars. So, when you're on monkey bars, which most of us don't call monkey bars nowadays, but when we were little, we did. So when you're on monkey bars, something very interesting is that you have to let go in order to go forward. You have to detach in order to go forward. And with tenderness and the sense of the attentiveness that it requires, there's a certain detachment that's needed, a certain letting go in order to go forward, letting go of whatever it may be, my phone, my worries, my fears, things that are on my mind. Just being present for the person. I was sharing with somebody earlier that the most beautiful sound to the human ear is someone uttering our name. It's interesting, why is it so powerful when someone utters your name? I'm not sure. It has something to do with our identity. But think about it. When somebody says your name, especially in a loving way, how does it make you feel? So letting go produces a special joy in us when we're sure that the letting go is helping us to go forward. So I thought we could maybe just take a moment of silence right now and think about our own lives and think about something that we maybe want to let go of, or we feel like God might want us to let go of in order for us to go forward. And we can ask Jesus for the gift and the grace to help us to let go of that, whatever it may be. Then secondly, tenderness implies this attunement, which we read about in this quote, this kind of being in sync with the other person and how they're feeling, being in sync with their joy and their pain and their sorrow. So I love this quote of St. Teresa of Avila. She says, "If a soul wishes to speak to its Father and enjoy his company, it does not have to go to heaven. It needs no wings to go in search of him, but only to find a place where it can be alone and look upon him within itself." So that's what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes we just need a little piece of land under our own feet and to come to see and know Jesus who's within us and so close to us. So the amazing thing about him is that because he lives in us, he feels what we feel. He feels our joy, he feels our pain. And there's no one else that can do that. So recently, one of the other consecrated shared an amazing experience of her grandmother. So she was kind of reflecting, her grandmother was sharing this story with her, and she was reflecting on her relationship with her grandmother because it was an extremely loving relationship, and in everyone in her life, she said that she felt the most love from her grandmother. And tenderness, like a lot of tenderness and just a lot of love from her grandmother. And she was having a conversation with her, and she, I'm not exactly sure how this came out in the conversation, but her grandmother said, you know what? So when she was younger, she was pregnant and she was delivering one of her children, and she also had a toddler. And all of this happened kind of at the same time, her giving birth to her new little baby, and her toddler ended up getting ill. So in this same time frame, she gave birth and her little toddler passed away. And it was the most profoundly painful kind of and joyful time for her, like mixed, right? Because she was experiencing the joy of having this new little life in her arms and the pain of having to let go of her daughter. And in the conversation with this, her granddaughter, this consecrated woman, she just said, you know what? I'm not exactly sure what happened to me at that time, but something changed inside of me. And I just realized as time went by that I wasn't afraid anymore. Like I would feel fear sometimes, but fear never had a grip on me since that moment. And when this consecrated was sharing this, I thought that actually makes so much sense, because perfect love casts out fear, right? And isn't it interesting that she experienced so much tenderness and so much love from her grandmother, and that her grandmother didn't experience a lot of fear in her life? There's something interesting about that, right? I don't know her story and if that was a special grace from God or how that came about. But that's the thing about love, is love casts out fear. So you probably know this quote from The Little Prince. I love that book. The most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or touched. They are felt with the heart. And when we feel love, we want to stay close to love. We all experience it. So if we express tenderness and love to another, we're expressing God to them, even if we don't use words. And that person will want to stay close to love. So then lastly, tenderness produces some after effects. So I want you to think of a moment that someone saw your inner beauty or goodness and they expressed that to you. So think of a moment that someone saw your inner beauty or goodness and they expressed that to you. Who was that person? Did they communicate that to you with words? Or a smile? Or with a tender touch? And how did that make you feel when you just knew that that person thought that you were beautiful or good, even though maybe you didn't feel beautiful or good? And you knew there were things inside of you that maybe weren't beautiful or good. But that person saw beyond. What kind of wake did that create behind your boats? And now think of a moment when someone was really attuned to your pain and sorrow. And what that felt like. And then you just knew you weren't alone. Or a moment when you were in deep pain or sorrow, and your loved one, the person you were with, wasn't attuned to that, actually. And what that felt like. Tenderness through attunement, it actually kind of gives wings to the soul, like there are after effects. I remember it was about 7 or 8 years ago, my dad got cancer, suddenly lung cancer, and by the time he was diagnosed, the time he passed away, it was only 3 weeks, so it was very fast. And I was consecrated, and I was actually the director of my community at the time. And I had to fly home, and he was so sick, and then I was home for the 3 weeks, and then he passed away, and I went to his funeral, and then I came back right up the day after his funeral. And when somebody passes away, it's kind of strange when you have to go to your regular world because everything has changed in your life and your world, but the world just keeps on going for everyone. And I remember that just being so hard for me to go home, go back, to my consecrated community and leave my family, and I was processing everything. And this woman that I wasn't even terribly close to, she had sent me flowers, okay, and some sweet consecrated went and put them in my room, and so when I went up to my room, there was a candle lit, and there was these flowers there, but they were from somebody I'd never expected to receive flowers from. And I will never forget that feeling when I walked into that room, and it was an act of tenderness on her part to just think of me. And I remember feeling so thought of. And it was less sad for me to walk in that room. I was struggling with losing someone in death, and then there was this beautiful bouquet, and it was a beautiful bouquet of flowers too. It wasn't just like a small one. It was a beautiful one. And I remember I just felt like so embraced. And it had an after effect on my soul. Like I felt loved. I felt thought of. I felt accompanied in my pain, even though she couldn't be there with me. So tenderness and expressing tenderness according to our personality, it can leave these like after effects in another person's life. And it can really make them think of God. When someone makes you feel loved, you actually begin to believe in love. So gentleness or tenderness comes from this quiet trust in God and His provisions. It's a charm that never really fades away. So, just to conclude, I'm not sure what you're going to think about this quote, but I really did like it. So it's kind of an invitation to love, and it says this: people say that love hurts. Some people say that love hurts. But I do not believe that to be true. Loneliness hurts. Rejection hurts. Losing someone hurts. Envy hurts. We tend to get these things confused with love. But in reality, love is the only thing in the world that covers up all the pain and makes someone feel wonderful again. Love is actually the only thing in the world that does not hurt. So when we're exposed to beauty or tenderness, when we experience love through these, it can be very healing, and it can bring us to God and connect us with one another. So this Advent season, even though we just have, we have like 10 more days, which is awesome, 11 more days. Let's ask Jesus to help us, to bring others to him through our beauty and through small acts of tenderness that he might be calling us to practice with strangers, but also with those loved ones in our lives.